Love, Strength and Honor, Samir Saif representing Ontario Top Team. And today I'm going to show you how to hand wrap. And I'm going to give a special shout out to the Dark Angel, Kylie Angel, for giving me props about my hand wrapping. So this one's dedicated to you. So the first thing I want you to do is you're going to get wraps. And if you have gap or space in your gloves, you are going to have 2 sponges. So the sponges aren't necessary, but if someone else puts the gloves on for you, I suggest putting on sponges, and you're going to see how it takes up the gap. So why do we wrap our hands? We wrap our hands to keep stuff together. So our hands weren't really made to punch, okay? We're much better made to palm, to use the open soft tissue of our hand. So we have to fortify 3 things when you wrap your hands. You have to fortify the thumb from dislocating. You have to fortify the knuckles from dislocating or breaking or actually cracking into each other. And you have to fortify the wrist because it's taking all that force, and our wrist really is a poor joint to take that kind of force. It's not what it's made for. So that's why we wrap our hands. So you can wrap your hands any way you want, but what I am going to say is when you look at joints in the hand, I don't think there's an argument that those are the things that you need to protect. So let's get started. So this side up is what the wrap says. The Velcro is in the middle. We're going to get the ring, whether you like to go over or under, completely up to you. I happen to go under because I like to get a good hook on that thumb. The first thing I do is I keep my hand as wide as I can during the whole process, because it doesn't make sense if I'm trying to fortify the wrist to have a chat with someone as I'm wrapping and my wrist is small now. You can see how small that wrist has gotten when I want it that big. I want my wrist as big as possible when I'm wrapping. I also want my knuckles and hand as big as possible. So when I wrap, now I come between the thumb and forefinger, I come across and make sure I'm behind the knuckles, because if I go over the fingers, I'm going to be squeezing my hand together and making them small. This does not make sense when I see it. It just doesn't make sense for joint safety while you're squeezing your hands together. So now we've gone across. I'm going to come over to the thumb and I'm going to wrap it. Okay? I go over to the thumb and I wrap it because I'm trying to save it from dislocation. Okay? So my thumb is wrapped and I'm ready to go. So here comes the tricky part, because you're a one-person show. So I'm going to take the wrap. I make sure my hand has stayed wide. I just hold the wrap in, and I have some sponge, and I take a little bit of sports tape and I put it right there behind the knuckle so I don't have to worry about holding it. So just make sure you got some good tension in there. You're keeping your hand wide, and we're going to come across the sponge once. Okay? Lost my grip here as I'm trying to talk to the camera. All right, got it under control again. So I come across the sponge 1, 2, and 3. So now the sponge is all covered up and I'm ready to separate the knuckles, and that's where I can let go of my wrap. I let go of the wrap. I come underneath the palm and around the wrist, and I go through the pinky. Okay? And I'm still keeping my wrist wide. And then I give it a punch and I fit it nicely between the knuckles. And then I open the hand. I come around the wrist. Come through the next finger. Make it ropey. Make a knuckle, a fist. And then I come under the wrist. Last finger, I'll open up. Come through. Feels good. Make it ropey. And now I'm ready to finish it off. I've kept my hand wide throughout the whole thing, so my wrist is wide, my hand is wide. Now I want to cover those artificial ligament tendon structure that I created between my knuckles. I came across through the thumb and finger, I come across the hand, the palm, and then I make an X. So I have an X underneath this one, and I have an X that's coming across. And the X drives the force into the wrist. And then for the last wrap, if you'll notice, I try to wrap high, as high up as I can. Because when you go low and you take your gloves off, your wraps come off. So this helps it not getting rubbed off every time you decide to take your gloves off. So let's see what we have. We have a wrist that's fortified. We have a thumb that's fortified. We have knuckles that are fortified. And we have a sponge in there. You could use another wrap all rolled up. We have a thickness here that takes any gap out of your glove. Feels pretty good to me. And we've got all of it covered up. So let's do it again so you don't have to rewind. You roll it to this side is up. Hook it, and from start to finish, you're trying to keep, until you get to the knuckle part, you try to keep your hand as wide as possible. And you'll figure out how many times you need to wrap your wrist will depend on the length of your wrap and the size of your hand. I'm just doing it kind of at the speed I normally would, keeping that hand wide. I get my sponge. I'm behind the knuckle. Still keeping my wrist fairly wide. And there you go. High up on the wrist, not down here. Thumb is fortified. Knuckles are fortified. Thumb is fortified, and this sponge is going to help me take out the gap. And that, my friends, is how you wrap your hands. Peace and love, strength and honor. Samir Saif representing Ontario Top Team.